But what was Hur's reasoning for not recommending filing charges? Because in his own words, he believed the jury would see Biden as a, quote, well-meaning elderly man with poor memory.
I'm Stephanie Keith.
And I am Tara Manjakovich. And we are unapologetically outspoken. Hey, everybody. Happy Monday. We hope you guys had a great weekend. And so today we have to talk about Biden. Not that we don't already talk about Biden all the time, but since last Thursday, social media and the MSM have been completely blowing up with articles and audio clips of Biden's impromptu press conference after special counsel Robert Hur filed his report of Biden's handling of classified documents from back when he was a US Senator and when he was vice president under Obama. And I hope you guys know what we're talking about because these were the multitude of classified documents that were discovered in several places, including offices, his homes, and in his garage last year. So Hur basically concluded that Biden did indeed willfully retain and disclose classified information. And in fact, the WCCS reported that according to details of the report, Biden's explanations to Hur's team for his improper retention of classified documents were not credible. So even though Biden cooperated with the investigation by being interviewed and turning over the documents, he gave false exculpatory statements to the special counsel's team, which is essentially evidence that Biden knew his actions were unlawful when he took the documents in the first place. And the report points out that Biden lied when he said none of the documents he took were highly classified, which was false because the report shows that some of the documents were very clearly marked top secret, sensitive, compartmented information. And Biden also claimed that all the documents found in his house were locked in file cabinets, which we also know wasn't true. And the report shows that some of the documents were found in torn cardboard boxes in his garage that were just like casually sitting there next to bags of potting soil. And this report was hundreds of pages long, so I'm sure that more details will surface, but these are the most significant things that have come out so far. So logically, you would think this would be plenty of evidence to charge Biden for a crime or perhaps multiple crimes, right? Nope. And I'm sure everyone knows by now, special counsel Hur did not recommend filing charges. And while this infuriates me, I can't be even remotely surprised because, as we talk about all the time, Biden is never held accountable for anything. But what was Hur's reasoning for not recommending filing charges? Because in his own words, he believed the jury would see Biden as a, quote, well-meaning elderly man with poor memory, end quote. So basically, what he's saying is Biden can't be successfully prosecuted for a multitude of crimes because he has diminished mental capacity, but it's perfectly fine for him to run the country. Or Stephanie, as your governor DeSantis recently stated, Biden can't stand trial, but he can have the nuclear codes. Like, that's a fucking valid point. And at this point, does any rational person believe that Biden has the ability to make clear decisions on anything? It is beyond obvious that, yes, he's definitely elderly and he's suffering from dementia, but I think that her stating he's well-meaning is a complete fucking joke. Not only is he the oldest president in US history, he has problems with his mental faculties, okay, but it's the fact that he's a compromised, dirty old man. He's basically a treasonous pedophile who outright lies to the American public on a daily basis. And to make it out like he's some kind old grandpa who's just losing his memory is completely disgusting. Like, everyone knows this guy is a complete piece of shit.
Well, and hearing you go through that, what comes to mind is like, okay, if he is well-meaning and if he doesn't have the mental capacity, well, then how is he able to lie? How is he able to give false evidence? Like, clearly he knows what's going on, or he wouldn't be trying to lie. Like, if he's some confused old well-meaning man, like, it doesn't make any sense. But it's like, are we really surprised by this? There's never accountability for anyone on the left, ever. And it also makes me think about Hillary Clinton. Same thing. They're like, oh, no prosecutor would go after this. Really? You had 30,000 emails of like horrendous things in there, and no prosecutor is going to go for that. And then, you look at like the way they've treated this case versus Trump's classified documents case, and it's like night and day. And it shows there's absolutely a two-tiered justice system in this country. And it's just like when you have Biden and Clinton that are accused of rape, but no one listens to or believes their victims. But when it's Trump, they believe even the most absurd case with zero factual evidence to back it up. And so here you have Biden with top secret documents on foreign policy, nonetheless, in a location where his son Hunter lived, who, by the way, took millions of dollars from foreign companies. And then you have Trump, on the other hand, who had classified documents as well, but they were in a safe that was guarded by the Secret Service in a locked room in a private club. And all of those documents, they ended up classifying them and saying they were just mementos. Yet they act like he committed the worst crime in the world, while Biden just gets away with it because he's just this sweet old man. And I mean, I think that everyone is well aware of it at this point. Like, I think even people on the way left know it, and they may not admit it, but I mean, you can see it plain as day. And I think it just had to get to this point where it's so blatant and so in our face that it's just undeniable. And it gets Americans to wake up because it's almost like an insult, They're insulting our intelligence by pulling these strings and like making everything out to be something that it's not. So he may not face charges in the court of law, but I think he sure as hell is in the court of public opinion.
Yeah, well, speaking of public opinion, like as soon as this report was released, Biden gave a press conference and it was a total fucking disaster. And since then, everyone, including the MSM, has been talking about his very obvious cognitive decline. Now, I have a theory about this, but first, I want to play this clip from the Megyn Kelly show because she sums up not only the press conference, but the other incidents that occurred last week, highlighting Biden's very clear mental decline. And this clip is like 4 or 5 minutes long, but honestly, I didn't want to cut any of it out because this week with Biden was absolutely insane. And if you haven't watched the news, like you need to hear what went on. So let's listen to this clip.
The president holding a primetime news address last night to the nation, very rare for him, to respond directly to special counsel Robert Hur's report on Mr. Biden's mishandling of classified documents. The report hit late Thursday and recommended no criminal charges, but Mr. Biden, who responded to the report with that live primetime address, also widely misled the country about what was actually in that report, and we do have a fact check. In addition, and perhaps most notably, the report gave a damning account, to put it gently, of the president's mental acuity in dealing with the special counsel. It said Mr. Biden could not remember the year his son Beau died of cancer. Quote, within several years, he could not state when Beau died. And once asked during an interview with prosecutors, he asked them, when did I stop being vice president? A couple questions, at least in this report, according to the special counsel, that Joe Biden asked about when he was vice president. It wasn't a one-off. Mr. Biden last night taking issue, at least with that allegation about Beau.
I know there's some attention paid to some language in the report about my recollection of events. There's even reference that I don't remember when my son died. How in the hell dare he raise that? Frankly, when I was asked the question, I thought to myself, wasn't any of their damn business.
After he made that remark, Mr. Biden went on to talk about the rosary beads that he wears on his wrist to honor Beau. Beau was wearing them when he passed. But watch here. It seemed clear, at least to me, that the president forgot where those beads were from when he was talking.
Let me tell you something. Some of you have commented, I wear since the day he died, every single day, the rosary he got from Our Lady of.
I remembered this from my own personal experience. You can hear him trail off there. The beads he was referencing are from Our Lady of Guadalupe in Mexico. A fact I know because he shared it with me 5 years ago. Tell us about the rosary beads on your wrist.
Well, Bo wore these. Hunt got these for Bo and me, and at Our Lady of Guadalupe down in Mexico, and I had visited there, and we all wore them.
That's 5 years ago. He couldn't remember last night. The reason it's relevant, of course, is because he was trying to rebut, while standing out there, accusations that he has forgotten major details around major events of his life, including the death of his son. That one, not a major detail, but it speaks to his problem, as so many of his statements last night did. Speaking of Mexico, after taking questions from the press, repeatedly raising his voice, misstating facts to reporters over and over, Mr. Biden then went to leave the room. But in what one can only imagine was a move that actively stirred the nausea and nerves in the pits of the stomachs of his core supporters, he came back to the microphone. My God, the stress. Only to then refer to Egypt's president, al-Sisi, as the president of Mexico.
As you know, initially, the president of Mexico, Sisi, did not want to open up the gate to allow humanitarian material to get in. I talked to him. I convinced him to open the gate.
Oh my God. That's the third time this week, for those of you counting, that he has publicly confused the identities of foreign leaders. He also claimed on Wednesday that he had spoken to German Chancellor Helmut Kohl in 2021. Mr. Kohl, by that point, had been dead for 4 years. On Sunday, he said at a campaign event in Vegas that he had recently had a chat with Francois Mitterrand of Germany. Mr. Mitterrand, of course, was the president of France, not Germany, and much like Helmut Kohl, is no longer alive, dead for almost 30 years, in fact, and was not recently speaking to Joe Biden. Yesterday, he also referred to red states and green states and mumbled through a remark we think was about Roe v. Wade.
And we pushed all these programs, I said I'm going to be a president for everybody, whether you live in a red state or a green state. Roe v. Wade for the law of the land. The law of the land.
Roe v. what? Who? Ward? An unnamed Democratic ally of Mr. Biden told NBC that yesterday was, quote, the worst day of his presidency. And already there are Republican calls to invoke the 25th Amendment, which allows the sitting president to be removed for incapacity. Joining me now,
Okay.
Hero.
So bad. Like, it's bad just in general, but it's extra bad because he's supposed to be like defending his mental capacity, and he just could not get through anything, like, at all. I mean, it's horrendous. It's like embarrassing to watch, even if you don't like the guy. It's just like humiliating to see someone like that. And when you watch the whole thing, it clearly shows that he's not just some nice, well-meaning grandpa. Like, he was getting mad. He was yelling a few times. It was not a good week for Joe Biden. We'll leave it at that, right?
To put it mildly.
Yeah. So, Tara, your boyfriend has a lot to say about this. So, Senator Josh Hawley said that Attorney General Merrick Garland is at a crossroads. And Hawley told Fox News, quote, I'm calling on Garland publicly now to do what I think is required under the law and the Constitution. Either charge the president or he will go to the cabinet and tell them, I believe we have to invoke the 25th Amendment. He's got to do one or the other, end quote. So Section 4 of the 25th Amendment allows the vice president, the majority of his cabinet, or Congress to determine if the president is unable to perform his duties, which is clearly happening here. And so Hawley went on to say, quote, if he doesn't, it will just confirm what everybody thinks, which is that there are two tiers of justice and that Garland himself is completely complicit in the corruption of this administration. And then on Fox News, they reported that 70% of Americans now think that Biden is in cognitive decline. I mean, that's a huge number. And even Hillary Clinton said it's a legitimate problem in a recent interview. And so it's just crazy, like everything that's happening, and everyone can see it plain as day. So House GOP leadership put out a statement concluding, quote, a man too incapable of being held accountable for mishandling classified information is certainly unfit for the Oval Office, end quote. And then Senator Marsha Blackburn gave a statement to Morning Wire saying, if Biden is too mentally incompetent to stand trial, then he most definitely is too mentally incompetent to be commander in chief. And I think she couldn't have said it better. I mean, couldn't have said it better. I don't know how anyone could argue with that.
Yeah, even Texas Rep. Ronnie Jackson, he was Obama's White House physician, and he said that Hur's report basically validates what he and other insiders, and in my opinion, anyone with a brain who's been paying attention to what's going on in our country for the past few years, we all know Biden has serious issues. So Jackson told Fox Digital, he said, quote, I've been saying since he was candidate Joe Biden that this man is not cognitively fit to be our president, our commander in chief, and our head of state. I've been saying that over and over. I watched the man every day, in and around the West Wing for 8 years when he was vice president. There's a drastic difference between then and now. Go back and look at videos from whenever he was first vice president and compare them to now. It's not even the same person. It's a real national security issue. I mean, it's always been a national security issue, but it's a national security issue that just gets worse by the day. We have lots of stuff going on overseas. Our adversaries absolutely positively have no respect for us. They have no fear of us or our allies, end quote. And I have to say, Stephanie, he's 100% correct. And this is what we have been saying ever since we started this podcast. Not only is Biden compromised, but he's fucking weak and he makes America look weak. And former Deputy National Security Advisor KT McFarland told Fox News that Biden's dementia is dangerous when it comes to foreign policy, and he gave two main reasons. He said, quote, first, it amplifies the claim that America is a spent power. Chinese leaders have been telling the world for years that America is in irreversible decline, that the future belongs to China. Biden is the embodiment of irreversible decline, giving credence to the idea that America's supremacy on the world stage is over. Second, because foreign leaders now know that now is the time to press the U.S. to take advantage of a leader who is not only weak, but confused, end quote. And retired Lieutenant General Keith Kellogg talked to Fox News about how Biden's inability to make decisions quickly and effectively is obviously a problem. And he brought up the recent issues in the Middle East and how it took way too long for Biden to react to the attack on Americans, and how the commander-in-chief of the United States has to be able to have the ability to make sound, rapid decisions, which we all know that Biden does not. And Stephanie, it's like you mentioned on Saturday's special episode where we did a podcast about Tucker Carlson's interview with Putin. And by the way, if you guys did not watch Tucker's interview and you want a shortened version of it, go check out our Saturday episode if you haven't already seen it. And one of the things I think you alluded to when we were breaking down some of Putin's statements is that every world leader knows Biden is incompetent, but none of them have actually come out and said anything.
Yeah, I mean, we could argue that everything happening right now, all of the wars, the border out of control, the crime, all of it could be traced back to his cognitive decline. I mean,
Yeah.
really, it's frightening how far it's gone. And, here we're in election year and just now people are speaking out about it and people are actually listening. It's crazy.
Yeah, well, the White House is obviously in damage control mode. So as you mentioned, when Biden gave his press conference, he basically went on an old man rampage, and he was yelling that his memory is fine and he's the most qualified person in the country to be president. And then you have Kamala saying that Hur's assessment of Biden's mental abilities were gratuitous, inaccurate, and inappropriate, and that it was, quote, wrong on the facts and clearly politically motivated, end quote. And you have similar sentiments being echoed by others in the White House and the left, claiming that the report was a deviation from DOJ standards and it was a personal attack on Biden because of Hur's partisan politics. The White House is blaming Attorney General Merrick Garland, saying he should have reined in Hur before the report came out. But I want to bring up something that I thought was interesting. So I was reading in the Daily Caller that Politico is reporting that some former Democrat advisors are suggesting that Biden should start making even more public appearances, which is interesting since basically what do his handlers do? They try to do the exact opposite. His entire presidency, they've tried to keep him out of the limelight, off the stage, always making sure his every move is completely choreographed and monitors and scripted. And even then, they can't keep his dementia contained, right? But according to this article, Democrats are saying that the best way to counter and potentially neutralize concerns about Biden's mental competence is to put him out in public more frequently, to interact with voters and the press in unscripted situation, even though there's political risks. So Democrat donors want Biden to, quote, come out of his shell and be more available, end quote. And Business Insider reported that Philippe Reines, who was one of Hillary's advisors when she was campaigning in 2016, told Politico, quote, I would flood the zone, and I felt the same with Hillary, because if you don't, then the smallest thing becomes too easy for people in the media to focus on. The answer to the president is not to put him out there 0 times to prevent 0 things. It's to go out there and have him say whatever it is, end quote. Stephanie, clearly putting Biden in the public more often is only going to highlight his senility and dementia and make it even more clear to the world that he's unfit for office. So, like, this has to be part of the plan, right? So the left can take him out of the race and replace him with Michelle Obama. Like, that's the only reason I can fathom, right?
Yeah, no, I agree 100%. If Democrat donors are saying that, it's because they're ready to swap him out with a Michelle Obama or someone like that. And I mean, there's no way they'll put him in front of the people. Like it's too risky. And he even declined the Super Bowl interview. So here was a chance for him to get in front of the biggest audience in an election year and do, a softball interview, and he turned it down because he isn't capable of getting through more than a sentence or two. And even then, he fucks it up.
Did you hear what KJP said though?
No.
She's like, no, Biden's not going to do that because people watch the Super Bowl to watch football, not to listen to the president speak.
Oh my God. Well, it's been a thing. I mean, this is a tradition, right? Like that every president does. And they don't want to put him in front of the people because it's just embarrassing. And, I think that they were probably waiting a little bit longer, for the primaries to be over. But yeah, like I think this was the plan all along, to throw him under the bus and bring someone in. And like the best thing the Democrat Party could do is kick him out. I mean, just think about it. They could blame everything that's gone wrong on Biden and then give the world this magical person that's going to fix everything and unite us and make the world a better place. And of course, that's going to be Michelle Obama. I mean, who else would it be? And like her husband's already controlling things behind the scenes, according to many people out there. And like, this is the best thing that could happen for the Democrats after they've failed so miserably on everything from the border and crime to this mess that we're in overseas with war and the absurd inflation. So they'll throw him under the bus and they'll bring in someone fresh and new to, fix things.
Yeah, and a lot of people are saying this. Like Vivek has said this, Andy Frisella has said this, you and I have speculated on this. And I think it's becoming the most logical and possible theory right now. I really thought it was going to be Newsom there for a while. Like I would have put bets on that. But lately, I feel like all signs point to Michelle Obama. So after Biden's clusterfuck of a press conference, Vivek spoke with Fox Digital. And he said, quote, the main obstacle stopping the Democratic Party is they have a Kamala Harris problem, which is to say that if they do sideline Biden, the natural person normally that would be the nominee could be the vice president of that same sitting president. But that vice president is unable, I think, to effectively carry forward that job. She didn't make it to the Iowa caucus in the year that she ran, right? And even within her own party, let alone issues with broader popularity in the country. If race and gender are your basis for selecting someone for a job and the identity of your party is tied to that temple of identity politics, then they will risk looking hypocritical if they sideline her after they sideline Biden. And I do think Michelle Obama offers them a convenient path out of that problem. Someone who checks the boxes that they need to have checked per their own ideology, while also selecting an alternative to Biden that may that they may view as more palatable in a general election. It's looking increasingly like it's not going to be Biden as the nominee, and I think it should not be shocking to see someone like Michelle Obama take the role of the nomination, end quote. But not everyone in the Republican Party is in agreement with this theory. And I was reading an article in the National Interest talking about how it was unlikely that Michelle Obama will throw her hat in the ring, and she doesn't even have a campaign set up yet. And when questioned, neither she nor Barack are confirming that any of these rumors are true. So Republican strategist Karl Rove told Fox Business that it was, quote, lunacy, end quote, to believe that Michelle Obama will replace Biden because she hates politics, and he said she loves the life she already has. And so, of course, the left is saying that this is all a conspiracy. And I was reading an article in News One that called it a, quote, fear-mongering conspiracy that dabbles in racism against Michelle Obama and her husband Barack, who Republicans have complained is effectively serving a third term since Biden was his vice president for 8 years. Conservative conspiracy theorists are playing up the prospect of Michelle Obama as the Democratic nominee, in part because they want to appeal to racist politics of fear that Barack Obama could end up serving a proverbial fourth term in or near the White House, end quote. But Stephanie, what do we always say about conservative conspiracy theories?
Right. They always end up being true. Just give it enough time, give it a few months. And obviously, Michelle and Barack Obama are not going to be like, oh, yeah, we're going to run. You know what I mean? Like they'd have to wait. So it's like so stupid that they're even asking them. Like, obviously, they're not going to say yes at this point in the game. The only reason I think she wouldn't do this is because she has, this Netflix production company, among other companies that are making her a boatload of money. And being president would take her away from that. I don't know. I think she'd have to have like someone else running the businesses, and she'd have to step away because you're not supposed to use like your clout or whatever as president to make money and profit. But I also think that the woman is a total narcissist, and she wouldn't be able to resist the chance to be in charge of the country and be the first female president. And just like Vivek said, who else could sidestep our Black female vice president? Like it would have to be another Black female. And I mean, it's
Or a
what
transgender?
defines. Oh, right. Exactly. Yeah. Throw in a yeah. Big Mike. And so, I mean, that's what their ideology is, though. That's what they stand for. It's like diversity and equity. So I know so many people are talking about Newsom, but I just don't see how that would be a possibility. And again, it's like so many people think that Obama is running the show behind the scenes. So, like, it would make perfect sense. And honestly, I think she's the only one that would actually have a chance at beating Trump because, like she would be the media's, darling candidate. And there's so many lefties out there that would vote for her simply because, she's a woman of color or she's the first female president or she's Barack Obama's wife, So I think she would get a lot of votes. And she's the left's get out of jail free card. And like people would definitely question Biden beating Trump this time around. Like more and more people would speak up about it. I don't think that they would question Michelle Obama
Yeah,
beating
no,
Trump.
yeah, I think you're right. And I guess the next question is whether or not Biden is going to take a cognitive function test. Like that's what people are calling for, and that's what a lot of doctors are calling for. And I don't know if you remember, but Trump had to do this a few years back and prove that he was competent. And so far, Biden has not only evaded doing it, but he's outright refused to take any mental acuity tests. Why? Obviously, because he wouldn't fucking pass it. But even if he did take one, can we trust what they tell us the results are? Like, unless they use this test as a means to get him out of office and go with the Michelle Obama plan, I don't think we're going to see real results. But like I said, it could be the perfect way to get him out of office.
Yeah, I mean, I think they know there's no way he's going to win. So I think they'll do everything they can to get him out of office, which is kind of why I'm like, why are the Republicans trying to do this at this point? Because it's like, this is keeping him in is the best chance at Trump winning. And so, if they go with the 25th Amendment, I'm not sure how that works. I don't know if he would then be forced to take this mental acuity test. I'm not really sure. But at this point in the game, it's like, what difference does it make? Like just let it get to the election, let the people decide. Although
Yeah, but
I will
you're-
say every month it gets worse, and we're like, how could it get any worse? And it does. So I mean, maybe they should get him out of there. But then we have Kamala in place, and
Right.
like that is equally, maybe even more terrifying. So I don't know.
And letting the people decide only works when it's a valid election.
Right. Exactly. I just hope that this opens people's eyes to like, this is, what happens when we vote. Because even for myself, my whole life, pretty much, I thought, well, it really doesn't matter who the president is because they've got their cabinet and like this, that, and the other. This term that Biden ran, like 100% made me realize, no, it's really important who is the president. And they actually do make a lot of decisions that can completely ruin the country. So that's been a big wake up call for me and probably for a lot of people. So we'll see what happens. We'll keep everyone posted. So yeah, it's been a really bad week and it's probably only going to get worse for Biden. So we'll probably post some funny clips on TikTok because I'm sure they'll be coming out more and more. And we'll see you guys back here next time. Thanks for tuning in. If you're sick of all the crazy shit going on in our country and you want to express your support and patriotism for the show, head on over to our Etsy store at UO Patriot Chicks and check out our new stickers. The link can also be found on our website. If you love the show and you want exclusive episodes, support the podcast and join the conversation by becoming a member of our Patreon community. We'll be posting weekly member-only podcast episodes and content that isn't available on the weekly podcast. Every Patreon member will also get a free Unapologetically Outspoken sticker and updates about our new sticker release before they're made public. And be sure to follow us on TikTok at Unapologetically Outspoken. And if you haven't done so already, please rate and review the podcast. The more you support us, the more people we can reach. So help us spread the word.